Today's special guest is a Syracuse native who is currently a common counselor here in Syracuse. He has been an advocate for the south side of the city and has represented the underserved in our communities for over 15 years. Back in the day, he was also known under his rapper alias, Most Talented. He truly is a very talented brother. So please stand and give our guests a warm School of the Hearts welcome. A man who speaks up and speaks out. Common counselor, Khalid Bey.
My question is, what role did you play in establishing the renaming of some of the streets here in Syracuse, like Martin Luther King Jr. Street and Reverend Walter C. Blue Lane?
I had absolutely nothing to do with Reverend Walter C. Blue Lane, but the MLK Street change. The idea came up initially in 2008. It was myself and a few other people that was a member of an organization on the South Side called the South Side Community Coalition. And we were initially looking at changing part of South Salina Street, but South Salina Street is also a state route. And so we would have had to receive state permission in order to change the name. Once getting elected, I thought it was maybe a little bit more easier to consider Castle Street, since it was anchored by Martin Luther King School. And so I initially, or essentially, took the bull by the horn, so to speak, and went through all the processes necessary to make it happen.
Sounds like you had a really big responsibility.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, we're now going to take some questions from the audience.
Not a problem.
My question for you is, now knowing that you've become a common counselor, what encouraged you to go into politics?
To be quite frank, you know, it's funny because I stopped doing music and entertainment in 2003. And just quite frankly, looking at some of the issues in our communities, I've been involved in the community since I was a teenager. But quite frankly, it was a matter of me coming to the realization that in order for things to change, I needed to do something, and who better to change my circumstance than me? So that idea is what prompted me to initially run for office.
So you wanted to take justice into your own hands?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing today, Mr. Bey?
Pretty good, yourself?
My question, I'm good, thank you. My question is, where were you raised and how did that influence the job that you do today?
I grew up in Central Village, aka Brick City. That's where I grew up. When it was Brick City, let me be frank. That's where I grew up. I lived on the South Side my entire life, except when I went to school in Virginia and when I lived in New Jersey for about 3 years. Really, it's just, you know, obviously there was a lot of temptation in that neighborhood. You know, you still have what's referred to as gang problems now. We had them then. Back then in the bricks, you had 5 gangs in the bricks alone who fought each other. So if you think it's strange walking from one neighborhood to the next, imagine not being able to walk to a specific side of the bricks. You know, so it was a little intense back then. A lot of temptation, but fortunately, I made some different decisions than other people. Music and entertainment and football kept me busy. I was too preoccupied with making beats and trying to score touchdowns, so it kept me busy and it kept me out the street.
So I researched that you want to help criminals find jobs, and why is that?
Well, my issue is from a moral plus economic development perspective. Moral because everybody deserves a second chance, of course. Economic development, though, which is, as a city councilor, I chair the Economic Development Committee in the city. That means any development you see going on in the entire city, they have to come to my committee in order to get approval. You know, anywhere you see a crane in the sky, anywhere you see them building a building, they had to get approval from us first. And from the economic development perspective, understanding our city's financial condition, you know, the city financial health is suffering quite a bit. And people re-entering into society, if they don't have the skill set for work or the like, they'll end up dependent on social services. or they may unfortunately turn back to a life of crime. In both cases, the taxpayer covers the load. They're paying for public services or public assistance, or they're paying for their incarceration. It's more intelligent, from my perspective, to empower the individual to become self-efficient, to take care of themselves. And that person, in turn, contributes back to the system. So I would rather you be a self-efficient, tax-paying citizen, you know, than a person who is dependent on public assistance or dependent on public services for too long of a time. Sometimes we all we run into hardships where we may need some help, which is fine. But sometimes people get stuck in that position. So I've always been big on empowerment, and even from that perspective, it's essentially about empowering people.
Do you have some accomplishments that you're proud of that you did in the office, while you were in the office?
Yes. One of the accomplishments, I have a number of accomplishments that I'm proud of, that people will never see. You know, one of the biggest concerns going in was the controversy that existed between the council and the mayor. And my intent going in, and a lot of my conversation going in, was about the need to compromise. And so fortunately, that's sort of become the language, if you will, and the intent of everybody over time. Everybody is now on the council talking about always seeking middle ground and finding compromise. You know, we're going through a budget session right now, totally different than it was last time. A lot of arguing the last time, no arguing this time, because people are only interested in progress. That's something you won't see, you know, out in the public, but it's one of the things that I'm very proud about, you know, because it helps government be more efficient. Another thing, obviously, is efforts to make government more responsive to constituents, but also to make the people, to educate, re-educate, re-acclimate the people to government. Because so many people have ideas about what they think government should do. And our ideas are wrong. And they're judging government based on this wrong perception. So we need to help them to find the right perception so they can hold government accountable. Those are the things that you won't see, but those are the things that I'm most proud of. You know, the other things, whether you're talking community environment, I mean, I've gotten people jobs. I've worked on jobs programs at Jobs Plus, you know, because I'm obviously big on economic development. Putting a lot of energy and power in the SUNY EOC to boost their education and workforce development programming. Senator Stacey CEO, the same thing. Got the mayor, the county exec, Rob Simpson, at Center State now looking at the importance of workforce development and we're targeting young adults, teenagers, and older adults who might not have the skill set to fit into some of these more complicated jobs. So a lot of those things out there, but the things that I'm most proud of is some of the improvements in government and its operation.
Do you mind giving us a little sample of most talented work?
We got beatbox here.
Oh no, I don't need a beatbox. I don't need a beatbox. More fire than most of y'all. Gotta put your money where your mouth is for most of all. Shorty, if you can't handle his business, give most to call. Climb up on the stage, crowd feeling me most of all. Tell him who the most hottest is, the most popular kid for music and politics. Most of them know who he is. Take you anywhere, hit him, say most, handle his business. Be the most, name known from Cali to Queensbridge. Be the most dominant, the most intelligent, the most talented. Who else, dummy, is evident? 9 times out of 10 against most, you won't win. But if I lose number 10, then most likely it's on again. Who'll be the most relentless, most lyrically fit, and most prominent, the most be heaven sent, and the people that choice be most for president, go to any event and say it's most, I'm getting in.
So, in closing, what do you have to say to us? What advice could you give to us as high school students?
One, there's nothing more important than learning. And I know it sounds cliche. You hear a lot of people say that learning, you know, oh, you gotta learn education is important. Trust me. Everybody, you know, how many people on here want to make money? Right. But, key word, know-how, right? Yeah. Say know-how.
Know-how.
If I don't know how to do hair, will you come in my salon?
No. No.
If I don't know how to cook, do you eat my food?
No.
If I don't know how to fix cars, will you bring your car to me?
No.
Keywords know how. People pay you according to what you know. Education is very important. People who go to college acquire a certain amount of learning, and that essentially determines, in this society, their value. So that's the most important thing. Don't take school for granted. Information is power. That is not a cliche. It's absolutely true. The difference between the lawyer who wins the case and the one who loses is one knew more than the other, period. The difference between the kid who learns in class and the kid who doesn't is one paid more attention than the other. Right? Because where you place your attention is very important. You have absolute control over how you learn. There's no such thing as a stupid or dumb person. It's just a person that didn't pay attention, that's all. And the last thing I'll say, it's very important to consider the group. Certainly you have to make strides to assure that your future is a good one. So you gotta learn, you gotta empower yourself. But it's equally intelligent then to share what you learn to other people. That's not saying you give away your paycheck, but you give away the things you learn and you empower somebody else to do the same thing. This is what government and politics is about. It's about empowering people, empowering neighborhoods, empowering communities. It essentially makes it better for everybody. I'd rather, a rich person living amongst poor people is still poor. It's only good when everybody's rich on the block. Gentlemen?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bey.